Hi everyone, I'm Scott, and this is going to be an issue video. It's movie related though, don't worry. Recording in a new location today, just for the fun. I wanted to talk about an award show that aired on MTV at the beginning of May. They've been doing this show actually since 1992. At the time it was called the MTV Movie Awards, and it was called MTV Movie Awards until this year, which they call it the MTV Movie and TV Awards, recognizing the relevance and quality of series on broadcast as well as streaming. One of the first awards that they gave out, if not the first award, was for, it was an acting award basically. And it was presented by Asia Kate Dillon, who's on a show called Billions. Asia Kate Dillon identifies as non-binary, meaning neither strictly speaking male or female. Asia Kate Dillon was born agender, but doesn't identify innately as either. And so Asia was chosen to present an award which was not gender specific. It was the category was called Best Actor in a Movie, which is a little odd because this used to be called Best Male Performance and Best Female Performance. And they could have simply changed the category to Best Performance in a Movie, but instead they called it Best Actor in a Movie. I don't know the reason for that. Anyway, they made this big thing about how it was the very first acting award that didn't discriminate, wasn't grouped by gender. And when Emma Watson won the award and she gave her speech, she backed that up. When Asia Kate Dillon spoke, the line was that it was a category free of any gender distinctions. That's a quote from what Asia Kate Dillon said. And Emma Watson, she talked about how it was the first acting award in history that doesn't separate nominations based on their sex. This is not true. I'm not sure about other acting categories in other award shows, but MTV actually did have a gender-neutral acting award in a couple of years past. Now, I've been watching this show for a long time. When it first came out in '92, it was just my kind of award show. You know, it was all about, you know, the fun movies. You know, Terminator 2 got a bunch of awards. And they had fairly standard categories. Best movie, best male performance and female performance. They also had breakthrough performance. They had categories like best villain and best kiss, which they continued for a long time. Best comedic performance, best on-screen duo, that kind of thing. And best performance was grouped by gender until 2006 and 2007, at which point they made it a gender-neutral category, basically. It was like one category with both male and female nominees. Now, they didn't do that in 2008. And I stopped keeping track in 2011. I actually have like an archive of all the nominees and award winners from the start of the first show all the way up to 2011. So that's 20 years of nominees. And so I went through it and looked over some of the categories and found that the performance category, the best performance in a film, was gender neutral actually in 2006 and 2007, in addition to a number of other categories as well. The whole line about this year being the first acting award basically that isn't sorted by gender is not true. It's just not true. Now, you might be wondering, what's the point of actually bringing this up? You know, I mean, what kind of difference does it make? If you watch the Oscars, you know that there are categories basically for both acting and supporting acting, and so there's a total of 4 acting awards. Best performance by an actor in a lead role, actor in a supporting role, actress in a lead role, actress in a supporting role. And what this does is, it actually guarantees that there will be an equal number of acting nominees for either gender. Now, of course, as we, become more progressive in our thinking, and we look at, non-binary conforming people, maybe a new category will be created at some point by the Oscars and by other awards organizations that say, okay, we've got the actor categories, we've got the actress categories, and we've got the people who are neither, and they're actors as well, and here's an award for them. But by making the category non-gender specific, could be seen as equal, except that one gender or the other might get shortchanged on nominees, and will probably end up being the female gender. And the reason for this is because, as I've said, I've kept track of a lot of the nominees over the years at the MTV Awards, and they do have other non-gender specific categories. They had breakthrough performance, for example. The hot young actors who were in movies and got a lot of attention. They were gender neutral, basically, from 1992 through 98, not grouped into either male or female categories. But in 1999, they made them separate male and female categories until 2005. And then in 2006, 2007, and 2008, they were gender neutral again. And then in 2009, they became separate categories again for at least the next 3 years. So you had this back and forth between the two. I don't know why they just kept it the same throughout, but again, if you looked at, say, comedic performance, which has always been a gender-neutral category, or best villain, which has also always been a gender-neutral category, you will have both male and female nominees in some of the years, but not in all of them. In the comedic performance category, there were, which is an award that was given out for the first 20 years of the show, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years in which the category contained no female nominees. So there were some years in which there were both male and female nominees, but there were other years in which there were only male nominees, and there were 0 years in which there were only female nominees. The Best Villain category did a little bit better. They had a gender-neutral category, basically, a gender-neutral award for the first 20 years. And there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in which there were no female nominees. There were the other 15 years, both male and female nominees, at least one female nominee. In fact, the first 2 awards in 92 and 93 that were given out for Best Villain went to female actors. Rebecca De Mornay for The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, and the next year it was Jennifer Jason Leigh for Single White Female. But in 96, 97, 98, 2001, and 2009, there were no female nominees. And there was no point in which that category had entirely female nominees. There aren't as many female villains, I guess, as there are men, or at least they aren't as well known. Like I said, Best Performance, which is just basically a straight acting award, was gender neutral in 2006 and 2007. I believe that Jake Gyllenhaal won one of those categories, probably won 2006 for Brokeback Mountain. And then you had, Best Duo. Best Duo is interesting as well, because they went back and forth between giving an award to 2 people or a group of people, Best Duo or Best Team, depending on what the selection was like that year. And I noticed that basically in 2002, when Shrek came out, Cameron Diaz was a nominee for Shrek. It was her, Mike Myers, and Eddie Murphy. They were a team that was nominated. But aside from her, she was the only female nominee out of all the people nominated. You had Ocean's 11, which was 11 men, basically. 11 male actors all nominated for the same award. And so there have been, of course, teams of females that were nominated. Charlie's Angels, I think, was probably nominated. It wasn't something where they ever kind of like went, oh, there's nothing but women nominated in this category. It just didn't turn out that way. Like I said, both comedic performance and Best Villain are gender-neutral categories, and though there have been years in which there are both male and female nominees, there are some years in which there are no female nominees at all. And there have been no years in which there were all female nominees, no male nominees at all. So, say what you will about the awards being silly and fun and not that big of a deal, but having the major awards, as far as like acting goes, group by gender is helpful to the gender that's underrepresented. You have, an equal number of male and female nominees. It's not like, you'll have a Best Picture where it varies between like 8 and 10 nominees each year. It's always 5 and 5, basically, for the Best Actor and Best Actress at the Oscars and the Golden Globes, and then you have Supporting Actor, Supporting Actress, and 5 nominees for each of those. And if they were to make those categories gender neutral at the Oscars, in other words, not distinguishing, but just nominating, whoever was, the most well-liked, most critically acclaimed for those categories, I think you'd probably see more male nominees each year than female. There'd probably be exceptions, but, there wouldn't be a point in which you'd see, an absolutely equal number of male and female categories all vying for the same awards. Like if they said, okay, best lead in a movie, we've got 10 nominees, and we just happen to have 5 nominees for each gender, it probably wouldn't work out that way. Delineating by gender is not necessarily a bad thing. It does, ensure that one gender is not, underrepresented. Of course, people want to get into the non-binary thing, and I'm, for that. Obviously, I think people should be self-affirming and come to know who they are innately and be good with that. And that other people should be good with that as well. But, I see in the future at some point they're going to want to create a separate category for actors who identify as neither male or female, but somewhere in between. That's what they call non-binary. Of course, you have people who would probably say, well, as long as we're delineating by groups like this, why not create a separate group for, race? You could have best black actor in a movie, best female black actor in a movie, and on down the racial spectrum, what have you. It's not perfect. It's not, it's never going to be a perfect system that satisfies everyone. But when they talked about how this was the first acting award ever not, grouped by sex, I'm like, that's not true. It's just not true. And you should know that, MTV, because you gave out an award like that in at least a couple years in the past. That's all I really wanted to bring up here. I enjoyed looking over the history of the MTV Awards. Oh yeah, also, Best Scared Performance. For some reason I put this down. They gave that out like 4 years. Just a couple. Oh, here's something interesting. Best Kiss. They've been giving this out since the very beginning. And my archive only goes up to 2011. It's only for 20 years. And the show is 25 years old now. But I just thought you might find it interesting that of the nominees, 5 of them have been, most of them, the overwhelming majority of nominees for Best Kiss are a male and female couple. But you've had 5 nominees in which both the participants were male, 8 nominees in which both participants were female. You've had 2 nominees that were 3 ways, 1 nominee in which one of the characters was a trans person, and then you had 1 year in which a human kissed a whale. That was Free Willy, so that's technically an interspecies kiss. Free Willy, 1993, 1 human and 1 whale kiss shared by them. So that's kind of interesting. Before I go, I wanted to make one other announcement, and that is I am part of a new collaboration channel. Just got started. It is called Real Talk Film Club. Every 2 weeks we'll be posting groups of videos on the weekend. It will work kind of like a book club, where we will all watch the same movie, and then we will each of us make a video on what we thought of it. But they won't be on our separate channels, they'll all be on the same channel. So you only need to subscribe to one channel if you're not subscribed to any of the other people who are on it. Like I said, I'm one of them. This channel was started by Ian, aka Forkerball, and James, DVD Collector 1974. One of the other participants is Michael, Gray 1951. You will find the link to that channel below, and we might have more people joining as well. I'm not the one who's running it, so it's not up to me, but hopefully you will find that interesting as well. We just did our first videos on the 1987 film Broadcast News with Holly Hunter and William Hurt and Albert Brooks. So there's at least 4 videos on that movie posted already. You can check them out right now. Every 2 weeks, like I said, we'll have another group of videos. Each group will be on the same movie. Several different opinions on the same movie. Kind of fun. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again real soon. Take it easy.